Hi guys, welcome to Classic TV Facts and Trivia. Appreciate you being here. Before we get started, I want to let you know this will be a two-parter. Very interesting on the life of Patty Duke. What a crazy, wild life she led. Tragic and really crazy. So Ben's just going to kind of long, so let's get started. Patty Duke was made for Hollywood. The actress most famous for captivating role as a deaf and blind Helen Keller in '62's The Miracle Worker. Duke showcased an impressive range of talent, yet her personal life was fraught with difficulty, pain, and frustration. Though I'd been a professional actor since I was 7 or 8, acting was never a dream of mine. Shockingly enough, the talented Duke begins her memoir, Call Me Anna, with these exact words, adding, when I think back in my earliest memory, it was all a performing. Patty Duke's colorful career spanned across 7 decades, earned herself 13 awards, and even earned herself an Oscar for The Miracle Worker, which, as Britannica notes, made her the youngest person to garner the full-size Oscar at the time. In the latter portion of her career, her mental health advocacy took center stage, and the actress suddenly saw herself inspiring countless others. She was so loved by so many people, said Duke's Miracle Worker co-star Melissa Gilbert, adding she had a mind-boggling depth of talent and survived being a child actor in the worst of circumstances. She was an extraordinary human being, and here's the tragic real-life story of Patty Duke. Patty Duke didn't exactly have a pampered upbringing, as she explains in her autobiography, Call Me Anna, until she was 12. The future actress grew up in a bedbug-infested apartment in a 4-story walk-up in New York. As she writes, the 5 of us all lived in 4 rooms, noting that none of the rooms had doors. If living in poverty wasn't enough, Duke's father was also an alcoholic. From what I know and what I hear, he started out a happy drunk who loved his family and enjoyed a lot of dancing and good old times when he was younger. Duke wrote in her memoir, somewhere along the line, the starlet's father drank up his salary. By the time Duke was 6, her mother asked him to leave. As the Me Natalie actress remembers, I almost never saw him again. Duke would later go on to struggle with her own addictions. Yes, she admits that her father's drinking had an effect on the entire family. With me, part of the legacy is an awareness that I'm an addictive personality, so I better keep on my toes, she reflected. Poignantly enough, instead of resenting the man whose demons drove their family apart, she still remembered him fondly for years to come. As she told People in 1999, I worshiped my father. If being abandoned by her father wasn't enough, shortly after his departure, Patty Duke found herself alone by her mother, too. According to an interview with People, Duke was introduced to the acting world by John and Ethel Ross, New York theatrical managers. As she went on, I became more successful in small parts and commercials, and they began to take over my life as well as my career. So what did that entail exactly? It turns out that Ross has agreed to take Duke on as a full-time client on a condition that she live with them. What a horrible, heartbreaking decision that must have been for her mother, recalls Duke. Considering her mom was a cashier raising 3 kids, the offer must have come as a relief. While nobody knew what was to come from the future A-lister living with the Rosses, Duke recalls a sinking feeling upon first meeting the couple. If there was ever a premonition I should have paid attention to, that was it. She recalled in her memoir, Call Me Anna. While the youngster tucked away these thoughts of fear, Duke was focused on one thing, a relationship with her mother. As she sadly told People years later, of course, to me as a child, it was a clear case of abandonment. Living with John and Ethel Ross wasn't exactly Patty Duke's introduction to glitz and glam of Hollywood, at least not fully, according to People. She began to build an active resume in TV ads, daytime soaps, bit parts on live dramas, more than 50 shows by the time she was 12. By then, she landed the role of her lifetime, that of Helen Keller, in Broadway's The Miracle Worker. In fact, the play did so well, Duke even reprised her role in the 1962 film adaptation of the show, earning herself the Best Supporting Actress Oscar. Of course, her fame came with a price. As Duke told People in 1999, she remembers that when she was 8, Ethel declared her name was to be changed. Born Anna Marie, her surrogate mother announced, Anna Marie's dead. You're Patty now. Hauntingly, Duke wrote in the memoir, Call Me Anna, it was as if she really did die. When people take away your name, they're taking away your identity. Losing Anna Marie wasn't enough. The Rosses also cut her off from her mother and got rid of her New York accent, training her in a repertoire of carefully rehearsed little speeches. Giving her a life of solitude, Duke remembers, I saw no one but the Rosses except on the set. They obsessively controlled my life. The years that Patty Duke spent with John and Ethel and John Ross were filled with oppression. The actress recalled to People that she wasn't allowed to have an opinion about anything, which included some of the most basic habits such as how she bathed, what she wore, or even closing the door to her room. Looking back, Duke saw herself as the perfect Stepford child. What's worse is that the Oscar-winning actress was essentially brainwashed into obedience to the point where she got in legal trouble. For People in '59, she perjured herself before a New York grand jury investigating TV quiz shows. The year prior, Duke found herself on a game show, coached into memorizing the answers by the Rosses, who the following year told her to lie to the grand jury, as she told the outlet. At the very end of my testimony, a congressman looked at me very sternly and asked me if I was sure I had told the truth. I said, "No, sir. Everything I just told you was a lie." If the public facade wasn't enough, Duke's private life with the Rosses wasn't any better. As People wrote in 1999, there were limits to Patty's submissiveness. On 2 occasions, says Duke, John and Ethel each tried to fondle her in bed. Thankfully, the actress' response was to vomit, which ultimately led to an end of the abuse. It's part 1. I'll be looking for part 2 tomorrow. This is really some weird, wild, feel so sorry for some bad stuff. Please don't forget to go to Classic Rock and Country Music Facts and Trivia. Head on over there. Please subscribe. Thank you. Please come back here tomorrow for part 2 of Patty Duke's life story. God bless. I'll be praying for you.